Following is a production of Locked Up Sports.
Everybody, this is Don LaGreca from The Michael K. Show. When it comes to talking sports, Bob Walters and Brett Grasso are the authority.
Can't wait.
When it comes to talking sports, they're the authority. It's Bob Walters and Brett Grasso. It's Locked Up Sports, and it starts now.
Bring them out, bring them out, hey. Bring them out, bring them out, yeah. Bring them out, bring them out, hey. Bring them out.
Here we go. Bob Walters, Brett Grasso from the Brian Gunzel Studios. This is Locked Up Sports. The Yankees win a wild one in Boston. Will it be enough to turn the tide the rest of the season? Mets add a bat and get a bullpen help. And we speak with Casey Stern about baseball, the trade deadline, and everything in between. Brett, what's up? Welcome to the show.
Oh, what's going on? We got the Olympics going on,
The Olympics, too. The Olympics.
We got the Olympics, just the...
I'm a Winter Olympics guy.
Yeah.
I like the winter better than the summer.
All right, well, we'll talk to you in 2 years about that.
I do. I like the hockey. The hockey's better than the basketball because we're not expected to win.
Yeah.
And they're struggling now. They're only up 7. USA's up 7 on Serbia.
You don't have options. Like, this is what we get.
No, I get it.
It's not like that. You have to just enjoy it. You don't want anything to do with it? Did you see the opening ceremonies?
I didn't. I didn't see. The first Olympics I've seen was when we came into the studio and you flipped the Olympics on.
Okay.
And then within the next 2 weeks, I will get wrapped up in the Olympics.
I know, but even you, like usually with social media, people actually see what's going on.
I saw the Last Supper thing that the people arguing about.
The drag queens or what was it? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, no, honestly, it wasn't very good. It rained. It was they were floating boats down the river.
Yeah, but you watch the opening ceremonies and the closing ceremonies is for like our wives.
No, I was at work. It was just on. It was
the opening ceremonies, the closing ceremonies, and the gymnastics are for our wives.
I watched to see if anything stupid happens. That's why I watch, and it did. So they were floating in, you have some countries that are bigger or smaller. So they had, a big boat for the U.S. They're floating down with the whole U.S. team on there. But there was other boats that would have multiple countries because you don't have that many people, right?
Well, they have 2 athletes or something.
Yeah, but you'd have multiple countries on the boat and just in sections.
Okay.
But, relatively decent.
Oh, they had to share the boat?
Yes, but they were the same size boat because otherwise, but they didn't. That wasn't for everybody. Other countries came down. They were in, a rowboat. Which you could barely, it was 2 guys.
Well, you take what you could afford, Brad.
No, but it looked absolutely ridiculous. The U.S. is coming down on a 100-foot yacht.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be.
And then you got the next guy who's physically rowing.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be, Brett.
He's got to burn himself out before the game.
Now, I didn't watch the opening
ceremonies. That really
ceremonies,
was pretty bad. It was not cool.
Last night, I did watch the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Oh, yeah.
And what a wild game. I mean, you have the Yankees in the first inning get back-to-back home runs from Soto and Judge. They're up 3-0. You figure, okay, this is going to be one of those 15-3 games. Red Sox come right back and get 4, and it's back and forth the entire way. The Yankees with 2 outs, 2 strikes against them in the 9th inning, down a run. Yep. And I forget even who got the hit, but they hit it to the wall.
Yeah.
And
I saw it,
and it's misplayed. You got to catch that ball out in the outfield. If you're an outfielder, he misplayed it completely. It wasn't it's not going down as the best played game out there.
I think we've seen something similar to that as a Mets fan this week.
It wasn't the Mets are on top of it, but the
misplayed
Yankees,
balls. But no, let me tell you, that is a huge win for the Yankees. Doesn't matter how you get there. You've learned. Let me tell you, some of the greatest teams, you know what they need? They need luck on their side too. Same thing with the Mets. That's how you go into good streaks and bad streaks. You want to change, you go win a game like that for the Yankees. Big deal. On the same day, trading for Jazz Chisholm, bringing some new energy to that lineup, which you'll talk about in our interview in a little bit.
Yeah,
Let me tell you. It's a big day for the Yankees because if you lose that game, that's not you go and lose today.
Listen, left-handed power on a Yankee lineup in Yankee Stadium, you can't go wrong with it, right? He hit long home runs against the Mets just a week ago when the Mets lost that series.
We've seen them. You guys have something different coming that you guys haven't seen, and you need somebody at the top of that lineup. And it looks like, Jazz Chisholm, he hasn't played as well as of late. He has versus the Mets, he always does. But
and they gave up nothing for him. They gave him a couple low-level minor leaguers.
No, besides for paying for pitching, mid-range bats, as the Mets learned today, do not come at a premium at the deadline.
No, what comes is bullpen arms and starting pitching, of course. But now with Senga out the rest of the year, the Mets, and with Scott going down out the rest of the year, I don't know how much of a factor Scott would have been anyway. I think they were going to kind of baby him down.
No,
the stretch.
he's a factor in the way that he is a perfect fifth starter to eat up those
4 innings or 5 innings.
Yeah, that gives, because when if it does come to the point where the Mets are towards the end and we're in a fight, because it looks like it's going to be a fight towards the end.
Yeah, it's real
He's
tight.
a guy that can get you a win at the end of the season and make it where your starters are at least somewhat rested going in that or getting ready for the playoffs if it does come to that. So he does have a huge loss, regardless if he was going to be in our playoff rotation.
Yeah, and listen, the Mets got a big game today, right? You want to take 3 or 4 from the Braves here.
Yep.
You want to kind of you had your foot on the Braves' neck after the first 2 games.
Yeah.
I was at the game on, what was that, Friday night, and they hit the 3 home. They got the grand
The Braves
slams.
aren't the Braves how they always have been.
Yeah, but they can still come back.
No,
against.
the Braves. No, you need to win this game to prove like this is what good teams do. Good teams, it's okay. Yesterday, you kind of you expect that to happen. You're going to get a loss once but this is what good teams do. You come back just like they have all series with this. They've come back from being down early. They score those runs. The guys who we can rely on. There's someone different who can step up every day.
But the Mets have been a bad team this year too.
Don't
forget.
No, but
you've been believing in it.
That's
the
a
whole
long time ago now, Bob. You're right, but that is now they've proven that this is who they are. They had to find out who they are, and other guys who have played terribly can still start coming through. Jeff McNeil looks like he's not going anywhere. If he can play good baseball, that's a different Jeff McNeil. We're just remembering the one that was terrible. If Pete Alonso can start coming around, I truly believe, and we didn't get to talk about this in the interview, but I truly believe that Pete Alonso, with the pressure off him of not being traded, I think it's more than the contract. I think he was scared he was going to get traded and be gone.
I was talking with, on Friday night, our buddy, Bob Usler.
Oh, okay.
Okay? He said that he's the ultimate glass half full Mets fan. Yeah. It's always going to be good. And he told me, he said he was at the 2 most consequential games this year. He was at the guy where Lopez threw his glove into the crowd. The glove landed 2 seats away from him. I'll put a picture up here. And there's the glove. Okay?
That's awesome.
And he was at the Grimace game. Grimace throws out the first pitch. Okay. And what he said to me, I'm going to tell you what he said to me. He said, the DNA of the Mets, he said, I think I told you, I thought this team was good, but nobody can predict if a team will be special. This team is special. Now take from it what you will. He's the ultimate optimist when it comes to the Mets. But Bob Usler, he thinks it's a special team and the way they've been playing and that they could carry this into the playoffs. Now let's see. We have another Mets fan here joining us today. Casey Stern. You know him from TBS and everything. We have a great spot. We just finished the interview. Here's our interview with Casey Stern. Let's see if he's as optimistic as Bob Usler is. All right, so now we'd like to welcome in our guest. His name is Casey Stern. He's the host of Unfiltered and Bleav In Mets, both on the Bleav Podcast Network. He used to work for Turner Sports. You know him from MLB on TBS. He was on the Studio Brett with Pedro Sheffield. He did the NCAA tournament, inside the NBA even. His name is Casey Stern. Casey, thanks for joining us for a couple minutes.
Thanks for
coming on. Anytime, boys. Happy to be here.
Good. First where he got his start, and I didn't know this, was Dream Job. I used to watch that in college with my buddies, and the only thing I remember about it was the guy Quigley or Quiggs.
Yep. Quigs.
And him hitting like
Quigs.
We used to make fun of it all the time when like Stanford hit like a half-court shot or something, and he was doing the Sports Center thing. He's like, the undefeated dream season is still alive. And we used to scream about it. That's so funny. I didn't even realize you were on that, but that's funny. That's funny. But he's also a Mets fan, Brett. So
listen, this is nice. Good time to be a Mets fan right now.
Yeah. What do you think about the 2 pickups now in the last day? Are they going to do a lot more, or what's going on with the trade deadline with the Mets?
Well, I think they're going to be highly active, but I don't think that they're going to bring in Garrett Crochet or Tariq Skubal or any of these kind of games. The Mets aren't going to mortgage the farm system in a season where nothing is a given in baseball, but you have to be understanding of the landscape. The Phillies, who just got Estevez, who didn't even need him yesterday, as we do this, are already in tow, best suited to win the World Series of any team in either league. And I don't even think it's close. They've got a rotation that's good enough to go win a World Series today. And they're about the only team that doesn't need starting pitching going into the deadline. Literally, if any team in either league, they're the only team that, no, we don't need it. That's how good they are. They've got pedigree, all of that. So when you look at the gap between what a Mets team and a Phillies team would look like in a 7-game series, for example, you're not mortgaging the future. That's not why David Stearns is here. But I think they'll try and get better. I mean, losing Senga for the rest of the year is a crusher. So I think, they'll probably look to get some innings and add another starter, whether it be an Eric Petty type or somebody of that ilk, and probably add another reliever. But I love the Winker move. I think they needed to add some versatility. They needed a left-handed bat. Stanek's got an arm that can get some strikeouts in the bullpen. The Mets are having a surprising season. And when you're having a surprising season, you go in, but you don't go all in, because they're not good enough to go all in. The Mets aren't winning the World Series this year.
No. I know. And they lost Scott too. They lost Scott too. Don't forget last week.
Yeah,
he's gone for a year. And I love how the Senga 4-week injury in April turns into 5 innings for the whole year. I mean, that's
the calf. I mean, obviously that's something that's it's. Who knows if it's overcompensating from the other injury or who knows what. But at the end of the day, it's terrible. I mean, he was dominating, and obviously you look at it and you say, okay, well, now we don't need a starting pitcher, perhaps. Maybe we can just go look at some more bullpen arms. The Mets need to add depth. The ironic thing about this Mets team compared to so many Mets teams in the last number of years where in times they've been good is their lineup is actually structured pretty well, and they could score. And, Winker also adds a little bit on the base pass as well. So, they're in a good spot offensively, which is, weird for kind of the Mets. They've been so built on pitching and how are they going to score all of those years with Jacob deGrom. Now they can score runs.
Right.
And, I don't know how they're going to get starting pitching. I don't think their starting pitching is nearly good enough to win a World Series. But I think if you can get into the playoffs and make some waves and get some of the younger kids some time and kind of turn around the way this franchise looks in the first year for Carlos Mendoza, I think it's a great season. So they're going to be a playoff team, and that's all you need to know. If you're
we don't.
The rest is gravy.
We don't need what we were always expecting out of deGrom, or even Senga, a 1-run performance, 2-run performance. If this team can score 5 runs a game, we just need pitching that can keep us right around that, under 5 runs a game, a bullpen that can keep you into the game. And I think that Mendoza's finally figured out how to use each guy in each spot and figured out where he wants guys in the lineup and how he wants to use his bullpen where,
one of the biggest things this season was Mendoza's flipping Nimmo and Lindor.
Oh, yeah.
And now Lindor's one of the best leadoff hitters in the baseball.
Yeah, I top of the lineup has been as good as any. And I think, I was talking about this with John Gibbons on a recent episode of Bleav In Mets, which you can catch every week podcast. And, right now the top of the order is as good as any in the game. And, Pete hasn't been great. He's probably wearing some pressure because he's out here to get paid.
Yeah.
And, this situation, could get ugly come off season. But at the end of the day, they could score. You need, though, to be able to pitch in the postseason. The problem is that you could score 5 runs a game all you want in the regular season. Nobody does that in the postseason. And that's because the best teams are going to be there. Shortened rotations are going to be there. 4th and 5th starters don't exist. And it's going to be hard. When you're facing the former Met like Zach Wheelers of the world, you're not scoring.
Oh, that one hurts. That one hurts. Zach Wheeler hurts.
I don't care what kind of offense you have. You're just not.
So,
I think for the Mets right now, they're in a great spot. A lot of things have rolled their way. The Braves having the injuries to Strider and Acuna have helped them big time because the Braves are a way better team than the Mets if they're healthy. The Braves could have won this division.
Oh, they're falling apart with the injuries.
Strider likely was going to be the Cy Young Award winner in the National League the way he was pitching. And Acuna is as good as any player in baseball. So, the Mets got a little bit of luck, which is also helpful. And they're in a good spot, and right now you just kind of run with it. So I think they'll be, aggressive like they've been. These aren't big names they're bringing in, but I expect another couple of moves before the deadline.
Would you trade McNeil?
I would have dealt him 2 years ago, a year ago, 18 months ago. I'm not a Jeff McNeil guy. So I would have dealt him like a million times. Right now, for what? Nobody wants Jeff.
Yeah, but he's hitting for the last. He's hitting for the last week.
With no offense to Met fans, nobody gives a you-know-what about Jeff McNeil. He's getting you nothing. He's a throw-in in a deal that nobody wants.
Yeah, you've shown what
a bunch of different positions. He doesn't hit for power despite the 1.5-week stretch he had recently. He's not going anywhere. But I think they should have dealt him before last season when he came off the big season 2 years ago because we all knew he wasn't that good.
I was watching your interview with Steve Phillips last week or the other day, and we had him on. We had him on about a year ago, and I was all in on McNeil. He was all in on McNeil, and he's like, nah. He's like, I'd be careful with McNeil. And we were just saying the other day, we're like, you know what? That's why he's.
Yeah, we were talking about like how we thought the Mets kind of made a good contract with him and got a good deal, and he's like, yeah, well, no, he's more of a an older guy hitting for average, doesn't really have a spot in the field, and he laid it out perfectly, and he could not have been more spot on than exactly what happened with McNeil since then.
Were you worried about Lindor going in?
No,
like after the first month?
I thought Met fans were. Look, I say this with love, but I've said this for years, and I'm a diehard Met fan. It's at times a great fan base. At times it's the worst fan base in all of sports. And I'm part of it, and I love it. But the vocal minority of Met fans are the worst of any team outside of like Cardinal fans telling you that they're the best fans of baseball, which drives me crazy. Francisco Lindor came in from Cleveland, a place that has 4 beat writers, and had a rough first year. And then after that last year, he was dominant. And did everything he could to earn all the money he could, and stood in front of the fire in a bad season and took every lump for the entirety of the team. And the fact that before the calendar hit in May, people were getting on him was just about the dumbest horse poop I've ever seen in my life. So no, not only was I not worried, but I feel bad for the guy. And I will tell you, I've talked to players many times over the years and mentioned names who play in specifically in New York and Philadelphia and Chicago, who have fake smiled for long periods of their careers to fans. Because once they get booed mercilessly, they never forget. It wouldn't surprise me if in the back of his mind, he will never be feeling the same way that he felt when he got here.
I think he's genuine. I think he's genuine.
If it were me, it would have driven me nuts. So I give him all the praise in the world. And to me, the fact that he has smiled his way through it, has been the leader he's been. I think he's an MVP candidate the way that he's played. But no, it doesn't surprise me. Look, Derek Jeter went 0 for 32, if you don't remember, to open a season once, and was booed by Yankees fans. That was after winning 4 World Series. So New York fans never.
New York is the worst.
Yankee fans are ready to break it down, and there's 16 games over 500.
Oh.
I mean,
well, yeah. Well, not now. Not that they got Chisholm there now. But
yeah, exactly. Now, what do you think of the Yankees? The game last night.
Yeah,
that's a big win. Is that going to kind of wake the monster now and get them back on track for that? That was a wild one last night.
Yeah. I mean, look, I give the Red Sox a lot of credit. They're one of the biggest surprises in the game. Everybody thought they were going to be a joke when we heard about this Netflix documentary. And Alex Cora has managed his ass off, and this team has played way better than anybody thought. But they've beaten up the Yankees pillar to post. I mean, they've done to the Yankees what the Mets have done to the Braves and the Yankees, which is all weird. In all of those cases, it makes no sense, seemingly. But I think it was a big win. But at the same time, I think for the Yankees, their biggest problem has been having to put too much pressure on their lineup because they haven't pitched the same. I mean, people, even without Garrett Cole, people forget the way Stroman and Nestor and Heel and those guys were pitching out of the gates was just insane. They weren't giving up any runs, so nobody cared that they really couldn't score a lot outside of Soto, and even Judge didn't get off to a great start at that time. But then Cole came back and didn't look good, and clearly is not 100%. And you've got Heel who wasn't the same, and they haven't pitched as well. I think for the Yankees, I think Chisholm is the way he plays. He is the antithesis of boring, tight, going to kind of, sit there between the lines and do all the Yankee calisthenic-y kind of things that they do before games and all of that. He's going to probably say the wrong things. He's going to be brash. He's going to bring some energy. And I think it's the exact kind of a guy that they needed in the room. I think they'll put him right at the top of the lineup, and I think it's going to be a very, very big change, I think, for the Yankees. I don't think it's enough. They need to get pitching in the next couple of days, but I think it's going to help.
I think they'll get pitching. And I mean, with the Yankees, you got they're relying on the unreliable players that have no track record, like Gill and Ben Rice. And Ben Rice has cooled down since the 3 home run game, but he had a big hit, he had a big play last night. When you're relying on that, you don't know what you get. That's not how the Yankees
Stroman's he's known to be an inconsistent guy. You get some good stuff out of Stroman, but it's going to be 2 good starts, 1 bad start, and then he's going to blow up and say something bad in the press. So, things are easy when things are going well, but when things start going bad, that's when you find out what you're really made of.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's be fair. If Judge and Soto weren't playing the way that they played, the Yankees would be under 500 right now.
Right.
And that's how good those 2 guys have been. And in Judge's case, I mean,
he's all world.
I went to school in Boston. I covered the Red Sox. I covered them during the 04 World Series. I was there for years in that city. I spent an I spent more time at Fenway Park covering it than I did at Shea, where I spent a lot more time watching it as a kid than I did covering it in 06, 07, and 08. And I've never seen a ball hit where Judge hit it 2 days ago.
You mean the center field? That center field one?
I've been in that area a million times, and I have never, ever seen a ball hit up there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Judge is having an unbelievable season, so they're very lucky. But at the same time, if one player can carry you to a World Series, Mike Trout wouldn't be 1 for 11 and 0 and 3 in his career in a postseason. So, I think whether it's Judge or Ohtani with the Dodgers or whoever, it all comes down to pitching. I mean, it's like, how did the Arizona Diamondbacks do what they've done? Yeah, Corbin Carroll and all of that last year, but they pitched the crap out of it and got great performances. You think about the Phillies the year before with Wheeler and Nola, who even stepped up, even though he was a question mark, with huge performances in the playoffs, and Suarez and the way the bullpen pitched. It all comes down to pitching. What Verlander did for the Astros and then vaulting them right back there last year, but then Texas with Eovaldi and all the names, it's pitching. So if Garrett Cole doesn't pitch the way he is supposed to, and we know he's capable of doing as much as we want to get on him, they're not going to win. It all comes down to the front line. If they don't pitch well in front of that rotation, they're not going to get to the World Series.
Yeah, you're not going to win games like last night, 11-8 and stuff in the playoffs. But
no.
Good.
Where do you think Soto's going to end up next year?
The Yankees.
Yeah, you think he stays there? Even though, because they're not going to offer him the most money.
Well, first of all, it's easy to say that now because we have no idea. They can't. The Yankees have plenty of money.
Well, yeah, any team has the money to offer it.
Look, I don't. If you gave me the chances that he joins the Mets, I think it's possible. But I think this is a Met. Look, this is a New York media Met fan thing. This idea. It started with Marte and other comments about bringing Soto over. And then those things kind of got ran with. It comes down to all the times with the Nationals that he came in, that he was being asked. But at the end of the day, look, I know a lot of people. I'm a Met fan. Okay, my whole family are Yankee fans except me. I have no love for the Yankees.
You're the black sheep.
If you offered me even money, there is no chance in hell that I would pay for the Mets. I would play for the Yankees.
With even money? Oh, you don't hate the Yankees?
No, I hate the Yankees. I'm just a professional who works in this business, and I'm also to me, it's not about it's about the real world. It's like something about the Islanders and the Rangers. The Yankees are the biggest brand in the history of sports. If anybody doesn't understand that, they should go out of the country and go look at what hats are worn. This is it.
Yeah, because there's nothing the Mets can do at this point to change that. They could spend the next 50 years. They'd have to win 20 World Series.
And the Yankees may not have won a World Series in seemingly forever, but they've been good a lot of the time. They were in the playoffs, losing to the Astros and the Guardians, or them with the Indians, a bunch of times. They're there every year. Even in a bad Yankee year, it's rare that you see, like last year was like an abomination. You never see that.
But the Mets aren't as bad.
Right there.
The Mets aren't as bad as we make them out to be either. The Mets have played in World Series. They made the playoffs multiple times. They've made a couple league championship series. The Mets aren't. We kind of play the poor me as Mets fans.
But they're not the Dodgers, and they're not the Braves, and they're not the Yankees. And, those are some of the teams you're going to be looking at who have some money to spend. So, do I think the Yankees may spend the most? They may, but the Yankees offered $325 million to Yamamoto, and he didn't care. You know why? Because I'd rather play for the Dodgers than the Mets, too. And I'm a Met fan. But it's not about, who you're fans of or any of that stuff. It's their life.
But isn't it partially like who he's? Isn't it partially like who he's friends with? Like if the guys who he more relates to on the Mets as opposed to this, because he always seems like a mercenary to me. He seems like he's one of the guys who has no loyalty. Yeah.
Would you spend the rest of your life tied to a decision, and your children and your children's lives tied to a decision of who the hell you're friends with? They don't give a. It's not my podcast. I don't know what you could say, but they don't give a what.
Yeah, I think he's more money driven though, more than anything. Like I feel like he has no loyalty.
This is their life. Like it's money. It's this contract will be the rest of his grandchildren will literally be affected by whatever he signs, right? It's not going to be about friends. Money's going to play a factor. So yeah, if the Mets want to offer $100 million more than anybody, I'm not saying they have to do that. Of course, they could probably get him, and I think they may get him anyway. But this idea that like he's not going to be again, he's sitting there in a lineup protected with Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
He's being treated when you're with the Yankees, you get treated like you're in like the Secret Service, like you're a politician. It is a different. It's just a different. And look, I'm a Met guy, but I'm also a realist. This is just it's not the same. You know, the Yankees is the Dallas. Look, I hate the Cowboys more than anything and more than anyone. I literally, of all the teams, I may hate them more than the New York Rangers. How much I hate the Cowboys. but this is it's Montreal Canadiens, Lakers, Celtics,
Yankees.
Cowboys, Yankees.
Yeah.
It's and when you grow up in another country, right, and you're growing up in the Dominican Republic, and you're wearing pinstripes. This is not something you just throw away. So the Yankees are going to have to pay him, but if the money's close, I think he'll stay.
Now, you worked with Pedro for a while, right? You sat next to him in the studio. What is he? He came to the Mets, right? As a free agent. He probably could have went to the. Does he have a hatred for the Yankees? Is this hatred for the Yankees real? Because he was a player. It was business for him too.
No, I mean none of these players' hatred for any of these teams are real after they retire.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I'm a huge UFC guy, and they don't even hate each other 5 minutes after a fight, and they're trying to kill each other. It's just sports. I mean, the fans are more into it than the players are. The players, it's not that they don't care, but it's their job.
I think Pedro always enjoyed
I
it.
think he hated those Yankee teams.
Yeah.
Sure.
But he enjoyed the banter.
But he isn't. I mean, it's like, I was sat there with him and Jeff, and they went at it on the field all the time, and they're still close friends. So it's like, none of that stuff is...
Oh, yeah, well, that was memories. Like, guys we played with in Little League and stuff. Like, remember these games?
They laugh about the stuff that they were the most angry about. They laugh about today.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, look, like David Ortiz and Derek Jeter are close friends.
Yeah.
They're on a set together all the time. And they were in the heat of that all the time. At the time, of course you hate each other. You know what I mean? It's like anything else. It's like you think like Troy Aikman and like whoever you want to pick on the Jets, like you're gonna go fight. Like it's not gonna, like it's just not that way. At the time, yes. But the other thing about Pedro is we say he picked the Mets. When Pedro left the Red Sox, they didn't offer him a deal at all. They offered him no money because they basically chosen Schilling after they won the World Series. So when he signed that 4-year, $54 million deal with the Mets, that was the highest offer. The Mets offered him the most money of anybody else. So again, look, do I think Soto can be a Met? Yes. Do I think Soto and Alonso can both be Mets? I don't think there's any chance. So how are you going to play that dance? How long are you going to?
I'd rather Soto. Yeah, but you're right.
There's a lot of but what if
you don't want to lose both of them?
Taking longer, and then there are a lot of questions we don't know the answers to. Right now, I think the best thing going for the Mets is they have all these kids that are coming up. They've got a lot of opportunity to get better on their own. They've got the right guy running the team. They're doing it in a better way than they did a couple of years ago, spending all this money on guys who are about to turn 70 to go pitch for you, and they're in a better spot. But if you ask me, I said this before the season. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I said before the season was asked, where do you think Soto will be? Yankees. Right now, today, where do I think he'll be? Yankees. When the Yankees want to offer you money, other than the Dodgers, normally there's no other place a star would like to play.
Do you think the Pirates can sneak into the playoffs? And if they do, you think they'll be in trouble with Skeens and everybody and all those young kids?
I think it'll be a problem if they get in because I think they're going to really be careful. If you thought they were careful about his no-hitter, watch how careful they're about to be on innings as we get closer down the stretch of the season.
No, I don't blame them.
Because they're not going to mess around. I mean, you already heard Garrett Crochet basically and his agent saying we're not going to sit there going into free agency and blow out his arm. So he's not pitching in the postseason until you sign him first. The Pirates are going to have whatever kid gloves are. You're going to have that times 1,000 with Skeens. It's not like you're sitting there running. So look, I think if they get into the playoffs, it's great. I mean, personally, I think it's one of the. I think it's maybe the nicest park in the league. I think Pittsburgh is a great sports city. I always have the Pirates like hat has always been like outside of like the Mets is all my thing. But if I was going to wear another one, it would that black clean look with the P. I mean, that is like I'm all about like get the Pirates in the playoffs. Like I think it's fun when they're in, but I don't think they're going to do much damage.
Yeah, I remember one of the best playoff series or games I can remember as a childhood was the Braves and the Francisco Cabrera.
Oh, yeah.
Where he got the hit.
Sid Bream.
Sid Bream. Yeah, you're right. Those were good Pirates teams back in the day. That was Barry Bonds pre-steroids.
Doug
Drayback. Yep.
Of course.
Was he the one guy in the Yankees that gave the finger to the crowd? No, that was
that's
McDowell.
McDowell.
That was McDowell. Jack McDowell. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. John Drabek, John Smiley, John Candelaria,
Right.
Bob Walk.
But I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing that he's in. He got drafted last year, and then he's starting the All-Star game this year. I mean, it's like a Gooden, DeGrom, Fernando Valenzuela type of situation.
Yeah, speaking of these, these young arms, are they? What's going on? Like, is it so many injuries? Is Tommy John become like just commonplace, where it's just a part of your career at this point?
I think when we try and find like all these reasons, at the end of the day, the biggest one is they're human arms and they're not supposed to do this. And people think like, oh, well, like, look, like I've interviewed Goose Gossett many times over the years, and I always laugh. I'm laughing to myself now when he would be like about Mariano Rivera, well, I used to save games and pitch 3 innings. Like, it's not the same. Like, the way we grew up, when someone hit 92 on the gun, we were like, oh, he's throwing hard. Like, Jamie Moyer wouldn't exist much now. Like, this doesn't, this is a different world. Skeens is throwing 15 pitches over 100 miles. Look at Jacob deGrom and what has happened to his body. No matter how much he has tried or how hard he's tried, you just can't pitch this way. So I think, Tommy John or other injuries are going to happen. The more, like, the biggest problem to me is, we talk about all these different things. When you're using max effort to as many times as they do, use your arm in that manner. I don't care if it's every 5 days, every 6 days, every 7 days. It's not going to matter. All it takes is one throw that doesn't feel right, and all of a sudden, and then you wait too long, or you don't notice it for a week, so you don't know it's inflamed or who knows what. So I think, these injuries, but it's terrible. I mean, look, imagine where the Guardians would be if they still had Shane Bieber. Like the Guardians are a huge surprise. Imagine how like disgusting they'd look if they had Bieber at the front of the rotation right now. They could go to the World Series. He was there. He struck out 20 dudes in the first 2 games he pitched this season and was gone. If Strider's there, even without Acuna, the Braves are a better team than the Mets because Spencer Strider is a dude, right?
Yeah,
so it's like it's unfortunate, but I think that's why you're going to see a lot of teams. Not to the extent the Mets had, where Jose Quintana is opening your season. But I think you're going to see a lot of teams spend more money on depth and number of bullpen arms and innings than you're going to see on high-priced, top-of-the-rotation talent. Because if I'm going to lose guys and they're taking up 20% of my payroll, then forget it. I can't do it.
Do you think there's a lot of teams going into this trade deadline that kind of are paper tigers? They think they're in it, but they're not, because it's such a seller's market. There's really only a couple teams selling, and everybody's within 5 games, especially in the National League. I mean, look at the Mets. They were in the first wild card, then they lose yesterday. Now they're in the third, and if they lose today, they could be out. So there's a lot of teams in it. Do you think a lot of teams think they're in it but aren't in it, and that's why it's such a seller's market?
Yeah, I mean, look, it comes down to this is, we always said that, like, you should back this up more, and, maybe the date would be longer. I don't think it's going to make it any easier if you do that. It may make it even harder for deals to be made. With the current landscape with the wild cards, you're not going to see a lot of big names move unless it's, these teams are sellers on speed dial, like, the Marlins with Chisholm, because all it takes is 2 weeks. I go back to last year. Look, I've been covering baseball for 20 years. The worst deadline I've ever seen, it's not even close, was the Angels' handling of Ohtani last year. It's not even close. And two weeks before the deadline, this team was like 6.5, 7 games out, and Ohtani was on the block after just hitting a home run and pitching a shutout the same day. Then they win 6 out of 7, and Artie Moreno's like, well, we're taking him off the table because they're only 3 or 4 out of a wild card instead. But they were like a 500 team.
A week later, they were way out.
A week later, they're out, and he's gone, and now he can't pitch, and you get nothing for him. And it's like, so I think teams like the Cubs, who are going to, disappoint their fan base and be like, look, I don't care if we win 10 out of the next 11, we'll do it by accident because, we'll sell a little bit or at least not buy. I think they're going to be more careful. I think teams that know they can win, look, the Yankees, the teams under the most pressure in baseball in the next, couple of days, in whatever order, the top 3 for me, and I don't even think it's close, are the Yankees, the Orioles, and the Dodgers.
Yep.
Those are the 3 teams. The Dodgers have Shohei Ohtani with Mookie Betts coming back and Freddie Freeman on your team. and you are going into the playoffs, and you have lost too many times in the first round.
There's no
And
pitching.
Ohtani is about right. So you have to. So they will be the team to watch on Crochet or whoever, because the Dodgers have all the money in the world. So if they lose prospects, they just go buy new players. It doesn't matter to them. The Orioles last year, Jack Flaherty, who by the way is much better this year, ironically, but last year was not enough. They are a team, and I don't think they're going to. Skubal will get moved at the end of the day. I don't think he will, but I think they're the team to watch for surprise pitching names because they've got such a big system. They don't need to trade Jackson Holiday. The Mets got Winker, the 17th prospect in their system.
You got these guys for nothing.
You don't need to trade Jackson Holiday. Like, you're not doing that. Now, I was joking around with Mark Feinstein, who was on my show Unfiltered recently. He's like, those are the guys you trade if you're trading for Paul Skeens. Like, you don't trade. Like, those guys aren't getting moved. You know what I mean? The Orioles have plenty of dudes that they can trade. They got a great system. And they and the Yankees are so neck and neck that to me, that race, I think whoever wins the deadline between Baltimore and the Yankees probably wins the division.
Baltimore's going to be kicking themselves. The fact that they have let the Yankees be this close, and with as bad as the Yankees have been for almost 2 full months now, and they're only a game out, the Orioles are going to be kicking themselves at the end if they don't win this thing. And I think that moving the trade deadline back, I think it's exactly like you said. It's pointless because it's kind of like adding extra teams to the NCAA tournament. Okay, you're going to add it. You can make it 75, but the 76th and 77th team is going to have just as big an issue as right now the 69th team does.
That's right. It'll still be a problem. And then, by the way, it's less time. So how much am I really going to give for a guy I'm going to have here for 6 weeks?
Exactly.
Or at least it's for a couple of months. And
So it'll just delay them from heating up the deadline,
Yeah, but it makes it harder, and that's why look, the Winkers, these Estevez, these are the kind of moves that you think about. Name's escaping me right now, but the reliever in the back end with the Marlins. But they're who will get moved. There are certain guys who are going to make an impact. But like Jason Adam got traded today, and for a pretty decent haul.
Where'd he go? Who did he get traded to?
Good question. I forgot because I literally just looked at it right before I got here. But I think when you look at the situation the way that it is right now, there's not going to be a lot of dynamic big names. He went to the Padres.
Okay.
Traded the Padres for Dylan Lesko, Homer Bush Jr.
Padres are going in.
Yeah. So, and by the way, they should. If they ever got healthy, the Padres are a team that could walk back into the playoffs somehow by accident and be healthy, and then have Darvish, Sisu just threw a no-hitter, Musgrove, Snell. I mean, some of the names that they have. You think about Tatis Jr., who hasn't been healthy, Bogarts, who hasn't been healthy or good. I don't know how they're even in this. But to be able to have, if they can get the health of Darvish and Musgrove with what Snell has done, they could be dangerous. You never know. But the Phillies are so good. The Phillies are really good.
Do the Mets make the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they will. I don't know which one of the wild cards it'll be, because it may be literally on the last day, because all these teams are so close. But I think they will, and I think it's because their offense is good enough. And I think that they're going to get some nights where the pitching's not enough, and they're going to get some nights where the bullpen's not deep enough. But that's the case of a lot of these teams in the National League. None of these teams are really that good. A lot of them have third, fourth, and fifth starters they don't want to throw out there in a big spot. So I think the Mets can, beat up on some teams, win some high-scoring games. And I love the way that the team feels and looks from the vibe standpoint right now. They got good leadership in the room. I think they'll make the playoffs, and that's a win. It doesn't. We're all going to get greedy. But that's the ironic thing. 2 years ago, they had to win a World Series because of the way they were playing, and that's the way people felt. And the last month of the season, they couldn't beat the Braves worth a lick. And then, I'm still dreaming of people rounding the bases as I close my eyes on Scherzer watching home runs go over the wall.
Oh, the worst.
And that's the fun part about this team is they're kind of not supposed to be here. Who the hell is going to start game one? Like, what does this even mean? And just go for it and see what happens.
The only thing that pissed me off more than them running around the bases were all the empty seats. They finally get in the playoffs, and you got a ton of empty seats in the upper deck. Nobody even went. They were making $200-300 though too. We
were there. We watched DeGrom's last start. And that was great.
hanging by a thread, 6 innings or whatever.
Listen, it was good, nice. Got our 1 win for the playoffs, but, we're going to see. Let's just hope that Pete Alonso, with his trade pressure maybe coming off and his contract, he can have a good second half, and, the Mets can ride this to the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, the other thing about Pete Alonso was, if you look at the worst at-bats that were had during that last month and a half, it probably was Alonso followed by Lindor, who had more 3 swing and miss strikeouts on curveballs in the dirt than I've ever seen. Nimmo and McNeil were the best at-bats they had in the game you went to and every other game seemingly the last month and a half of that season. And, you go back to the last number of years, how many big hits has Pete Alonso had?
He gets big hits sometimes.
It's been on the
in the regular season.
I always called him the king of the pointless home run.
Yeah, well, he hit the home run in the beginning of the season was big.
He knows how to hit a home run when you're up 8-1. He hits a lot of home runs.
Lindor has had a lot. Brandon Nimmo has had a lot. Jeff McNeil's had a few. How many Pete Alonso had? He grips the bat a bit tight.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, he's a nervous guy. Have you ever seen him? He was on where he's on the like a hunter show, and he's out there and he's hunting for deer or whatever it is. And it comes to the point where they finally have the deer. Alonso's there and he's got to shoot it.
Can't pull the trigger?
No, he shook to the point where he couldn't. No, and I looked over and I was like, all I thought was this is a guy who should be under pressure, be the most calm, and be whatever. And I understand it's a very different thing than whatever it is. But I'm talking shaking to the point of didn't happen, and they laughed about it. It was kind of a joke, and I was like, oh, man, what's going to happen in the World Series?
Now, tell everybody where they can find you. Tell us about your 2 podcasts that you got going on.
Yeah, so you can find me either way on Apple, Spotify, where we get podcasts. Unfiltered, which is the main one, and Unfiltered with Casey Stern, so you just look that up in your podcast. It's also my YouTube channel is Unfiltered with Casey Stern, and Instagram as well. You can find me on Twitter, X at Casey Stern. And there you can also find information about Bleav In Mets, so the 2 podcasts that I'm doing for Bleav Network. Most recently, I had Mark Feinsand on doing a trade deadline preview for Unfiltered. We had Steve Phillips, Gibby, Jim Duquette were my last 3 guests for Bleav In Mets, and all kinds of fun stuff. Stevie and I just had a fun time going down memory lane on Mel Rojas, among other things. So
it was a good interview. Go watch the Steve Phillips one. It's good.
We had a good conversation with that. But and you can find me all those places. Look, I hope the Mets win. I root for the Mets. I try and be. I'm not pessimistic. I try and kind of hit the one down the middle. This is if they get into the playoffs, this is a house money season. By the way, that might be why they maybe win a round or 2. Because they know that too. This is not the teams they're going to be facing. The Phillies are going to have an exorbitant amount of pressure because they are really good.
But wouldn't that be fun, Mets Phillies? Right? We push them to the 5th game.
Be amazing. Be amazing.
I think that's the best part of the new format is some of these teams sneak in that would have never made it in the playoffs in the past. They come in, they may be the hottest team in baseball, even though they had a bad first half, and all of a sudden you can sneak in. It happened to us versus San Diego. The looks of the Yankees keep happening to them. So let's see.
Just don't make me
Arizona.
It's the biggest one.
It was 2 wild card teams last year. 2 wild card teams.
So I think. Look, it's fun, and that's what's fun about this year. I think the Red Sox. I'm hoping the Red Sox get in. I think they're a half a game or a game out now. The Mets, like some of these teams that are big franchises who were supposed to be terrible, like sneaking in, like good for them. Like if the Mets and the Padres both get into the playoffs, which I think is possible, after the years they had last year, where they were like the biggest disappointments, and it wasn't even close. Like good for those franchises, and good for Mike Shilton, good for Carlos Mendoza. So I think it'd be a great experience for him managing in the postseason for the first time. So just get into the playoffs. The rest of it, and Met fans won't be that way because I'll say really quickly one of my favorite pastimes of the Mets is you can never be happy. 2015. Was the worst offense I've ever seen for a team in this franchise in its history. It was the famous Sunday night game in the first half where Soup Campbell and John Mayberry Jr. were hitting 3rd and 4th against the Yankees. And then all of a sudden they were under 500, and they were terrible, and 7 games out, and they make the Cespedes deal. And Matt Williams, who was a terrible manager, puts out Drew Storen too many times against Cespedes. You win all those games, and you're in a spot where nobody thought you'd be in a season that the team was unwatchable. I mean, they were just under 500, but if you remember, they were unwatchable.
Terrible.
Oh yeah,
they were unwatchable this year.
We're still oh, well, they're not going to do this, they're not going to do that. Then they won a round. Oh, they're not going to. And oh, well, Terry Collins shouldn't. And yeah, Familia shouldn't have been in a 6-run lead and all this other stuff. But it's like, do you look where they got, and did you remember where they were 2 months before that, and how bad they were? I mean, forget it.
It's like the Jim Fossil Giant team that went to the Super Bowl. That team was terrible.
I think that's all we're looking for, though, is just a fun ride and through the summer to enjoy the.
Say that until you get there, and
I'll
then you
take
want it all.
I'm telling you, I was there, and I listen. As sad as it was, that Andy Chavez catch is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Now the rest, I don't remember what happened after that, but that was it. And let me tell you, just give me that at least, because we were about to have a boring summer. Now we're not. Let's just take it where it goes.
We got a summer. Now just keep me out of having to talk about and listen to and watch preseason football for a couple weeks, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, this is good.
All right, his name is Casey Stern. Check out the podcast Unfiltered and Bleav In Mets. Casey, thanks for giving us a couple minutes here.
Appreciate it.
Anytime, boys. Be well. Talk
all right,
to you soon.
be good, Casey.
Let's go Mets.
All right. 3, 2, 1. How about that, Brett? How about that? Casey
Always.
Stern,
Great
thank you.
Always good to have a fellow Mets fan on here.
Yeah, but the
when
Mets
it's
fan that
going
doesn't want to
well.
play for the Mets?
Yeah, well, he's a Mets fan unless the money's on the table.
He's a businessman is what
He's
he
a
is.
businessman.
But great job,
No,
Casey
it was
Stern.
great.
Thank you very much. Check out those 2 podcasts, Bleav In Mets and Unfiltered. They're both really good. He's got great guests because he's got the connections. He had Steve Phillips, although we had Steve Phillips first, Brett. He had
Clearly,
Steve
we are the connections.
He had Steve Phillips. He had the Mets pitching coach. He's got great guests, and they're good. They're good podcasts. They're not too long. He does them live on Facebook and Twitter, and then you can also find them wherever you get your podcast. So check them out.
Yeah, we got to try and get him back when if this team starts pushing for those playoffs. Let's hope.
Well, they're pushing for the playoffs now, right?
No,
this is the push.
I'm talking in. Let's talk about this in
September?
about 6 weeks from now.
All right, fair enough. So, and you got anything else, Brett? What do we got left to do?
Olympics, Bob. It's been. I know you don't want. You're not even into it.
I'm not, but I will get into it.
No, I know. It's not like that at all. Have you seen some of the new events?
No.
Well, they got the skateboarding, which is kind of like, that makes sense a little bit.
The skateboarding's been an event for a while,
It
right?
is, but there's some new. Yeah, there's some new. But the biggest one that they have the surfing in Tahiti.
Okay, surfing I think has been in for.
This is the second time.
Okay.
Second time, I believe.
Surfing's
the surfing.
a little weird. That's a judging
But
thing.
they're 10,000 miles away.
Oh yeah. Where's
They're
the
in
surfing?
Tahiti. They're in like
Oh.
French Polynesia.
Oh, okay.
They're really. It's like Embiid trying to play for the U.S.
Yeah. So what's that like? Does that suck if you're the surfer? Like, because you've obviously always surfing in Tahiti.
See, the surfers love it because those are like the best waves in the world right now.
But do they get to come to the closing ceremony? Like, if they win, do they go to the medal?
It depends
Where's the
on
medal ceremony?
It depends on how long the wave rides for. If they can get there on the wave,
Now I know that I know they used to
they
do.
missed the opening ceremony.
They used to do, and what they started doing in the Winter Olympics, they've carried it on now. The last
Yeah.
couple ones, I don't know if they still do it if they do it in the summer.
Yeah.
Is they have like at nighttime they do the medal ceremonies. That's where they give all the medals for the day away.
Right.
Do they do that? And do the surfers have to get from Tahiti to the medal ceremonies in France by the night?
No, they're just
Closed
stuck
circuit
in Tahiti.
television?
It's just them, a little television. It's nice in Tahiti though. They're having a good time, but. Maybe the closing ceremonies. I imagine the competition will be over before the games are over. You fly in, you get the closing ceremonies back on that really dirty river again.
Yeah, what's up with the dirty river? What was that?
It's the most disgusting river. It's
like the East River?
Europe.
It's like
well,
the East
imagine
River?
Europe, like the U.S. There's some dirty parts, right? Europe is 20 times older than that, so it's just old. This place has been there forever. Old sewage systems, I'm sure they've upgraded, but you can only upgrade such old stuff to such a point. So when it rains in France, all the crap fills the river, and it's E. coli, and it's fecal bacteria. So they keep testing it, and it's above the limits where they can't even do the triathlon in the river. They can't do like some of the events in the river because it's too dirty. But I don't know. For some reason, they decided to focus this whole opening ceremonies and the entire Olympics around the Seine, which is it didn't go well.
Now, the opening ceremony was like a Broadway, but I'm not interested.
It didn't go well, but it wasn't. You're right, but it's usually cool. Like if you remember Beijing, and they had all the guys there, and there's like 10,000 people all on the drums, and they're perfectly drumming.
Yeah,
and no, there was at least it was cool to see. This wasn't. Celine Dion came out. We all can agree that's great. Nobody's against Celine Dion. Name a person who doesn't like her.
There's a lot of people who
don't like her in general.
Well, not as a person, but her music.
With her news, she's got some disease, stiff man syndrome.
She had to cut off her Vegas. I know Celine Dion through Sarah.
She powered through. She had to relearn how to sing.
I know Celine Dion through my wife. My wife's daughter.
Yeah.
So my stepdaughter.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend is best friends with Celine Dion's son. Like best friends. Like he goes on vacations with Celine Dion's family and everything.
And you don't like her.
No, I don't have anything. You don't
seem to like her.
I think her music's all right. She's all right, right?
She's all right. That's what nobody's. No, she's great.
She's not Taylor Swift.
I'm just kidding.
She's not Taylor Swift.
I'm not like I don't really care as much as I'm making it sound like.
Brett, my heart will go on.
Yeah, no, listen.
So the Mets 140 today. You got Lopez for the Braves going up against Peterson. This is a big one, Brett. We need Peterson to come through, give us 6 solid innings. Yesterday, you know why they got beat yesterday? Because they just couldn't hit the starting pitcher. They got shut down by a red hot starting pitcher.
That
was
seems
untouchable.
to happen to the Mets
That happens
all
to everybody.
the time. No, because that guy would be 22-0 then.
No, I mean not with him.
No,
but
I know.
Everybody runs into a good pitcher.
They are just. It's first time they see it's the first time they've ever seen him.
But like I said, you got your neck, your foot on the neck of the Braves going into
Gotta win it.
You
Yeah.
gotta win today.
Yeah, and same for the Yankees.
Sunday night baseball.
Listen, big game for the Yankees too. It shows you you gotta compound it. They need to get something going. And listen, if they're gonna do it, you can't wait around. If you wait a week right now and lose and go like they
the
have,
Orioles are gonna start winning eventually. Like they're not gonna.
Well, no, but eventually it just is who you are, and it's hard to get out of it mentally that you're a bad team. If you're a bad team, you're a bad team. And for the Mets, you want to keep it going, so you're like, listen, we're a good team, and the Yankees right now are like, we're not a good team, and a couple wins changes that whole thing. Last night's a big one for them to come back.
They tripped up right out of the All-Star break, losing 2 or 3.
Yeah, but then they proved again that they came right back into a big streak, not a win in 3 games. You go win 6 games, you're a good baseball team. That doesn't happen, and when you're putting a bunch of those together, we're about to see, but we're about to get into a good stretch.
Let's see who they get. Let's see how different this team looks. Let's see how different the Yankees look next week when we're with you. There's a lot going on.
A lot of New York stuff going on, man. Every team's got something going, which doesn't happen often.
The Giants
they're not in the new. They're not. We don't talk about them.
So that does it for us here today. We want to thank Casey Stern for coming on, giving us a couple minutes. That was a great job by him. Check out Bleav In Mets and the Unfiltered podcast. Remember, don't forget to give us a rating, give us a review, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast. We're also, while you're searching up Casey's stuff, search us up too, and give us a subscription and a like as well. So, Brett, that does it. We'll see how we look next week. I'm going to try and get an Olympic somebody on, right?
We're working on some Olympic
guests next week. So, check us out. That's it. Enjoy your Sunday. Let's go Mets. For Brett Grasso, I'm Bob Walters. Thank you to Casey Stern from the Brian Gunzel studio. See ya.